Good morning, all. Today we are going to discuss the topic PERT technique of project management. The earlier session we are saying the critical path method, which is one of the technique of project management. And today in this session we are going to learn what is PERT. So PERT stands for Program Evaluation Review Technique. So the PERT charts are tools which are used to plan the tasks within a project, making it easier to schedule a project and coordinate the team members of the project and also the accomplishing the work. So here PERT and similarly these ETM methods are nothing but these are certain tools which are used for planning the task as well as making schedule and also coordinating the team members and accomplishing the work. So here these two techniques regarding CPM as well as PERT, these two techniques are used to uh, make the schedule of the given project, and based upon this schedule, we can able to know at what time whether within the scheduled time the project is completed or not. Like so, PERT charts were created in the 1950s to help manage the creation of weapons and defense projects for the US Navy. So actually this method has been emerged in 1950s only. So why? Because in earlier cases it is used in the creation of weapons in defense projects for the US Navy, not in our country. First it has developed in the US. And PERT is similar to critical path in that they are both used to visualize the timeline and the work that must be done for a project. So both EPM as well as PERT, both the techniques are going to visualize the timeline. Timeline is what is how much time a project is going to take to complete. So in both the cases, we are going to determine the time for the project completion. And next, however, with PERT, you are going to have three different time estimates for the project. You estimate the shortest possible amount time each task will take, the most probable amount of time, and the longest amount of time task might take if things don't go as planned. Okay. So here, PERT is calculated backward from a fixed end late since contractor deadlines typically cannot be moved. So here, basically in PERT, the calculation of problems using this PERT technique, we are going to have the three different time estimates. They are shortest possible time, probable amount of time, as well as long amount of time. The shortest possible time can also be known as optimistic time. Okay, that means where everything everything goes uh, means the project is going to complete it without any hurdles. Means everything is going to have a smooth without any hurdles. The project can be completed. Means everything is going to have smooth fine. Okay, and next one, just read. Sorry. The shortest possible amount of time can be known as optimistic time. So optimistic view of point, in optimistic view, what we are going to take, they won't think about negative. What is going to happen if we do in the middle? They won't think about the negative points. Only they are going to assume in positive way. That means everything go in right way and the project is going to complete within the time without any delay. So thus, eh, such estimation of time requires very less value. Okay, so that's why we are going to take it as the shortest possible time. Suppose if we are going to assume any delays due to some problem, due to machine failure or due to some electrical supply, if we assume that, that failure is going to have some repair work. For the repair work, it is going to consume some time. So that time, if you are going to assume all those things, then it can be created as a pessimistic time, where when everything is not go well, when everything is not in our way, then the time which you are going to assume is longer. Suppose if you are going to assume in both the cases, if you are going to assume some positive as well as some negative, then it requires somewhat less time than the pessimistic time. Okay, so probable amount of time can be viewed as the most likely time, whereas longest amount of time can be considered as the pessimistic time. So here the PERT is calculated backward from a fixed end, they since contracted deadline typically cannot be, it is calculated backward. So by using all these time estimates, we are going to calculate one time that is known as expected time duration of each and every activity. So how? Next our topic is creating a PERT chart. A flow chart is used to depict the project evaluation review technique. Nodes represents the events which we have seen in the previous case, that is nodes represent the events or circles, okay, with indicating the start or end of the activities or tasks. So nodes are nothing but we are naming, we are representing it as in the form of, so the events for any project we are going to have the number of events. Each and every event we are going to consider or we are going to represent by the nodes. The nodes are going to represented in the form of circles, indicating here the nodes are going to indicate the start as well as end of each and every task. The directorial line, the directorial lines indicate the tasks that need to be completed, and the arrows show the sequence of the activities. The arrow mark which is going to connect all the nodes gives the sequence of each and every activity. First, what task should be done, and then what it represents. So, how we are going to know the sequential order of the task to be completed can be given by the arrow mark of each and every direction line. Next, here there are four definitions of time used to estimate project time requirements. They are optimistic time, pessimistic time, most likely time, and expected time. So optimistic time is nothing but here the least amount of time it can take to complete a task. The least amount of time it can take means where we are going to think that everything is going in the project completion, everything is going to be right. You're not going to bother about the failures and or any delays. So whenever you're going to assume everything is going to be right, then the time estimation can be known as optimistic time. Similarly, pessimistic time, the maximum amount of time it should take to complete a task. The maximum amount when you're going to get maximum amount of time estimation, that means for example, the project actual for example, when for example an activity in a project requires 1 hour, but whenever you are going to assume all the negative assumptions regarding the completion of that activity, like failure of a machine and interruption of power supply and due to lack of labor, sudden lack of labor, like that sudden problems, if you are going to think, then what happens, whatever we are going to assume that work, whatever we are going to assume that time is going to take some more, whatever you are going to estimate that it will take some more time to complete the task. So here this pessimistic estimation time, we are going to include all those things. So that's why it is going to have the maximum amount of time. Similarly, next one is most likely time. Assuming there are no problems, the best or most reasonable estimate of how long it should take to complete a task. So, as most likely time is here, the best or most reasonable estimate of how long. So, assuming there are no problems. In this estimation, we are going to assuming that there are no problems in the completion of activity, and also we assume some of the problems regarding the completion of task, then we are going to get this time estimation. Okay, that means this most likely time estimation is in between the optimistic as well as pessimistic. The most likely time is greater than optimistic time and less than the pessimistic time. So of all the three timings, optimistic time is least amount and pessimistic is high, whereas the most likely time is moderate. And coming to next one, expected time. Assuming there are problems, the best estimate of how much time will be required to complete the task. So, for example, you are going to have some problems regarding the completion of any activity in the project. Then, what you have to do, you have to take consider all these three estimates, three time estimates, and then this expected time is taken by all these three times. So here, the optimistic, the expected time formula can be given as T naught plus optimistic time plus 4 times of most likely time plus pessimistic time divided by 6. So this formula I will show in the slide when I am going to explain the problems regarding project duration as in the CPM method as well as PERT. Okay. So there is certain formula which we are going to use the expected time using three timings. Then coming to this, to implement a PERT chart, what you have to do, how to implement a PERT chart. First thing is identify the different tasks. We have to identify the different tasks which you are going to have in a project completion, and make sure you have to, and also you have to mention the duration, which task is going to take how much time, like that, and make sure to add these in the right order. We have to arrange the task in an order, that means in a sequential order by an arrow mark director, and indicate the duration of each and every task. Then what we have to do after assigning the task in a sequential order, then we have to mention the duration of each and every task. Then we have to draw the network diagram by using the arrows to represent the activities and also nodes with a circle shape, and determine the critical path and also possible slack or float. Okay. Then coming to the advantages of PERT, it helps maximize the use of resources. So it helps to maximize the use of resources, means how many resources you are going to use in the completion of project. That resources are going to use in an efficient manner. It makes the project planning more manageable. It's useful even if there is little or no previous scheduled data. It can be useful, like for example, even though you didn't have any previous scheduled data also, we can able to solve the problem, that means project, the calculation of project duration, it is easy. It enables project managers to better estimate or determine a more definite completion date. And coming to the disadvantages, in complex projects, many find PERT had to interpret. So they may also use a Gantt chart, another popular method for project management. This Gantt chart is not in our syllabus, so no need to bother about that. Okay. another popular method. So no need to worry about this, but so it is also one of the method which is used to solve the project duration. Okay, it can be tedious to update, means difficult. It is very difficult to update, modify, and also to maintain the PERT diagram. Why? Because in the calculation of PERT, we are going to assuming three-time estimates. So in the three-time estimates, we may have some differences, assuming that it is somewhat complex. So it entails subjective time analysis of activities, and for those who are less experienced or are biased, this may affect the project's schedule. It entails a subjective time analysis of activities. So even though you're going to have less experience, this can be uh, not work preferable. So this may, for example, those who are less experienced, which who are going to implement this for calculation of project duration. In that case, it may affect the project schedule. So this is the chart of PERT technique, network diagram of PERT technique. So here this circle in circle shape, we are going to represent some numbers 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50. These are these are known as nodes, and nodes represent the task. Okay, and this is the line, direction line, which on the end of this direction line we are going to have the arrow mark. This arrow mark indicates the sequence. So sequence means among all these nodes, this 10th node means the 10th task is the first one. First it is going to start. After completion of this task, then we are going to have 30 as well as 20th activities. So only after completion of this, then these two have to start. Okay. And when 40 is when 40th task should be started only after 30th one. Okay, it is independent of this 20. So this is sequence. See, this 40th node the task which is completed only after 10th as well as 30. Then only it is going to start. Okay, and after this 40, we are going to start this 50. So in order to so at last this is the end. So next one, see here. So here the 50th, it is the last activity, last task. When it will be completed, when this 40th as well as 30th as well as 20th. So three events are there. These three pre-events should be completed before this 50th task. So then successor means, see here 10. So for example, this is the 10th node, 10th task. This 10, 20 as well as 30th node represent the two tasks. These can be treated as the successor events of this 10th task. Similarly, for this 50th node, these are converging. The arrow marks which are going to converging toward a node represent the pre-events. Whereas whenever the arrow marks are going to diverge, this node can be considered as the post events. Post events, pre-events. Okay. Next, here this T is nothing but the expected time, which is calculated by using the three time schedules, that is optimistic time, most likely time, as well as pessimistic time. So after calculation of this, then we are going to mention the time duration of each and every activity. Okay. Next, this is an example. Okay, this is an example to show how we are going to represent the network diagram in a PERT technique. Okay. Then coming to the differences, basic differences between PERT as well as CP. Let us see. Just wait. Here is some water. So it stands for, first thing, first stands for Program Evaluation and Review Technique, whereas CPM stands for Critical Path Method. Second one, model. It is a probabilistic model under which the result estimated in a manner of probability. That means why? Because we are going to estimate the timings now. Since the expected time is calculated using three timings, the three timings are also based upon our probability only. So that's why it is a probabilistic model. It is a deterministic model under which the result is ascertained in a manner of certainty. So here the actual duration of the activity is going to consider without any estimations. That's why it is known as deterministic model. Whereas time, it deals with the activities of uncertain time, whereas CPM in this case, it deals with the activities of precise, well-known time only. Okay. Here it deals with the activities only, the activities which are going to take exact duration of time. Okay. And then coming to the next fourth one, jobs. It is used for one-time projects that involve activities of non-repetitive nature. Whereas in this case, it is used for completion of projects that involve activities of repetitive nature. Then orientation. It is activity oriented in as much as its result is calculated on the basis of the activities. And see here next, in this case, it is event oriented, sorry, it is not even, here it is misspelled. This event oriented in as much as its results are calculated based on the events. So PERT method is activity oriented, whereas in the CPM method is event oriented. And dummy activities, it does not make use of dummy activities in this technique, whereas here in this case, it is going to make use of dummy activities to represent the proper sequence of the activity. What is dummy activity? Which doesn't consume. It is an activity which doesn't take any time duration. Such activities are known as dummy activity. Similarly, cost. It has nothing to do with cost of project, whereas in this case, it deals with the cost of a project, schedules and their minimization. And estimation. It finds out expected time of each activity on the basis of three types of estimates. What are that? Optimistic time, most likely time, as well as pessimistic time. Based upon the three timings, you are going to calculate the expected time of each and every activity in the PERT technique. Whereas in this case, here, its calculation is based upon one type of time duration that is precisely known. Precisely known means whenever you are going to know exact time duration, that time duration is going to consider in the calculation of the CPM method. And coming to time, next last parameter, PERT is restricted to time variable, whereas CPM includes time cost trade-off. So here, in this, it marks in CPM method, sorry, in PERT method, it does not demarcate between critical and non-critical activities, whereas in this case, it marks the critical activities. Okay. And next one, the PERT is suitable in defense projects and R&D where activity timings cannot be really predicted. Okay. In this case, This type of technology is suitable in the defense projects as well as R&D, means research and development, where the activity times cannot be predicted. And similarly, the CPM method is suitable in the industrial setting, plant maintenance, civil and construction project, etc. So the CPM method is used in the projects where we are going to have the precise time duration of each and every activity. Whereas PERT technique is going to use where you cannot know the exact time duration of each and every activity. Generally, so in research and development cases, you don't know the time. Depends upon keen observation. It depends upon some days together, some months together. Like that, it is going to take up to complete a project. We cannot estimate the time. That's why the PERT is going to use in the research and development as well as defense. Similarly, critical path method is used in the industrial setting, plant maintenance, civil construction project, etc. Then, so in this diagram, successor event. This, if you see here, 10 come. If you observe these nodes, 30th event is known as successor event, or the event that immediately follow the another event. So after 10, it is going to follow. That's why it is known as successor event. And 10 is known as predecessor event. It is an event which comes immediately before another event. So it is the predecessor event. And 40 is the successor of 30. 30 is the predecessor event of 40. Right. 20 is the predecessor event of this 50, and 50 is the successor of 20th, 30th as well as 40. And then our next topic, once we go through this, then I will move on to new topic, break-even analysis. Then, once you go through the differences chart between PERT and CPM, once you go over the slide, okay, then our topic is break-even analysis. So, what is the break-even analysis? This I will start some introduction. So, the break-even analysis is a very important and useful tool of management. The break-even analysis helps in finding out the relationship of cost and revenues to output. This analysis is usually presented on a break-even chart. Break-even point is the level of outputs or sales at which your at which your at which there is no profit or loss. It indicates the position at which marginal profit or contribution is just sufficient to cover fixed overheads. In other words, a business is said to be break even when its income is equal to its expenditure. That means you are not at all having any profit or loss. That point is known as break even. In break even analysis, there are two elements to consider. One is the level of the break-even point, and the other one is the rapidity with which profit change in relation to the output. We can also, the break-even analysis also examines the effect of change in the cost, volume, and prices on profit. Hence, this analysis is also called as cost volume profit analysis. Okay. So here, this break-even analysis is a technique. It is widely used by the production management and also management accountants. The total variable as well as fixed costs are compared with the sales revenue in order to determine the levels of sales volume, sales value, or production at which the business makes neither a profit nor a loss. That point can be treated as break-even point. So let us discuss how to calculate the break-even point in the units. Let's wait. So before going to calculation, we need to know some terminology in this break-even chart. First, I will show the chart. So here, so the break-even analysis is represented graphically by means of break-even chart. Okay. So break-even chart is used to determine the break-even point and amount of profit or loss under varying conditions of output and cost. Okay. Sales or expenditure in rupees is represented on vertical axis. So what is this vertical axis? This here sales, cost and profit, whatever it may be. Expenses are represented on the vertical axis, and the expenses which are going to have some cost is going to represent it here. Whereas while output either in quantity or in percentage capacity is represented on horizontal axis. So this is revenue line and this is quantity line. Okay, so it is represented on x-axis. Next line here, see here this line. This line represents what? Line A is here. The line C. You are going to observe how many curves. This is a straight line, which doesn't. It is not a changing based upon the. Even though see here the cost of this quantity is same irrespective of this quantity irrespective of this quantity, here the cost is same here. So that's why you're going to represent it as a fixed line, that is constant line. And what is this line? It is linearly varying. Okay, 1 and 2, and this is third curve. Okay, so totally you're going to have the 3 curves. Okay. Okay, first let us see. This line is known as fixed cost line. So why we are going to name it as fixed cost line? Because it represents the fixed cost, whereas this line is known as variable. Okay, this line is known as variable. Why? Because variable means why here I will tell variable line, whereas this it is fixed cost line, variable cost line, and third one is total cost line. This total cost is nothing but the sum of the fixed cost line as well as variable cost line. And the intersection point where this total cost as well as variable line meet, that intersection point is known as break even point. Okay, so this is a fixed. So the space between the space between this. See here the space between this fixed cost line and this we are name after this point we can name it as a margin of safety. So margin of safety means this is the point at which in order to get the profit minimum quantity should be in order to get profit or loss. So margin of safety means suppose if the revenue, if the cost is less than, if the quantity is less than this, then we are not getting the loss, and above this we are going to get the profit. I will tell first. I will tell the terminology regarding this chart. So fixed cost is nothing but these costs are fixed and do not change either with the production or with the sales. These costs are fixed. This doesn't change with the production or with the sales. Sales, even though you increase or decrease the production, or even though you are going to increase the sales or decrease the sales, it doesn't affect. It remains constant. Examples of these costs are salaries of the officers, interest on the loans, insurance, depreciation, charges, etc. So these charges doesn't depend upon the production as well as sales. That's why we are going to name it as a fixed cost. Okay. Then variable cost. These are fluctuating costs. As the output increases, these variable cost increases. These are the costs towards the raw materials, direct wages, commission rates on sales, etc. These will depend on production volume. These costs will increase with production and will become zero at nil production. See here, this is a variable line. As the quantity increases, the cost also increases. So as the production increases means whenever the units of production increases, then as usually are going to use more raw material, more work like that, more labor. So the cost is going on increases as we are going to increase the production volume. So that type of cost is known as variable cost. Then coming to the third cost, that is total cost. It gives the sum of variable cost as well as fixed cost. Then coming to the angle of incidence, see here, we can the intersection point. This is the intersection point of total cost line as well as a variable cost line. The angle above this, we can name it as angle of incidence. It is the angle at which income line or sales line cuts the total cost line. If the angle is large, for example, like that, if the curve is like that, what happens? Angle increases. Okay. If the angle is large, it indicates that the profits are being made at the higher rate. Profit zone is going to increase. On the other hand, if the angle is very small, then it indicates loss. For example, in this diagram, this graph, you are going to observe angle, the angle is very less. Then what you are going to observe here, the incidence angle is less. So whenever the angle is less, what you are going to get? Profit is less, whereas the loss is more. For example, if we are going to increase the more incidence angle, then what happens? We are going to get more profit zone and less loss. Okay. So based upon this angle, the angle indicates. So whenever the angle is high, whenever the angle is large, then it indicates the large profits are going to make. Whereas if the angle is going to small, then it indicates that less profits are going to make. Then coming to the next, margin of safety. So it's nothing but difference of the actual sales and break-even sales. So up to this, what is the breaking point? No, this point is known as break-even point. What are the actual sales? See here, this is the margin of safety. Actual sale, for example, this is nothing but actual sale, and break-even sale is considered 7. The difference of these two are considered as margin of safety. Is the difference between the actual sales as well as break-even sales of any business activity. It is shown on the break-even chart as the distance between the break-even point and the output. Okay, break-even point as well as output. Last, the margin of safety, safer and profitable the business. On the business is it indicates the safety of how far the business is in safe position. Whenever the difference is more, then what happens? You are going to assume that our business is safe and also you are going to get more profit. Then contribution. It is the difference between the selling price and the variable cost. So contribution is nothing but the say it is nothing but the difference between the sales cost as well as variable cost. So see here, fixed costs are nothing but the ones typically do not change. They are going to change slightly. Examples are salaries, monthly utilities of the and monthly utilities of the given firm. Variable cost represents nothing but they are going to change. This is going to change according to the production value. Then, so how to calculate the break-even point in the units? So this can be done by the formula fixed cost by sales per price unit minus variable cost per price unit. Okay. So sales per unit means this is how much a company is going to charge consumers for just one of the products that the calculation is being done for. Sales price per unit, okay? Whereas variable cost per unit means variable costs are costs directly tied to the production of the product like labor hired to make that product or materials used. Variable costs often fluctuate and are typically a company's largest expense. The calculation can be given as total variable cost by total units produced. The variable cost formula can be given as total variable cost divided by total units. So by substituting these two things in this above formula, we are going to give the break-even point. Okay. So before going to this, before going to next topic, some more points I want to tell. Last one topic, that is advantages as well as disadvantages of this break-even analysis. So this coming to the advantages, it is a decision-making tool in the hands of management. It gives the relationship between the variable cost and fixed cost. It marks no profit, no loss situation. Ascertaining volume of sales needed to attain the targeted profit. It is useful in fixing the selling price of a product. It is useful in calculation of profits for different sales volume. It is useful in determining the margin of safety. So why we are going to use this? In order to determine whether the business is in a safe position. That means whether it is going to earn profits or it is going to be in loss. Okay, so that's why also by knowing all these things, we can able to fix the selling price of a product so that we can able to calculate the profits Next, limitations or disadvantages. Coming to the disadvantage of this break-even analysis, the break-even point is difficult to determine as the fixed cost and variable cost cannot be separated. Yes, they cannot be separated. So it's somewhat difficult to determine the break-even point on the break-even chart. Market conditions may not remain constant over the range of projected capacity. This is a tool for short-term analysis. Next one, the assumption of constant selling price and unit variable cost is incorrect. It is very difficult to use the break-even analysis for multi-product firms. Yes, for multi-product firms, it is very difficult to implement this. Why? Because based upon product, you are going to get the different curves. It is wrong to assume that all the production is sold. So this topic has been completed. If chance is there in your syllabus, problems are there. In the coming section, I will try to explain all the problems regarding CPM, PERT as well as break-even analysis. Then coming to this, okay. So with this, I'm going to stop my session. Okay. The next session we will see the problems related to this. Thank you one and all.